Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 239 of the Co-op Podcast. I'm your host, Richard Billy Jr., and today I'm joined by Mr. Gary A. Swaby. How's it going, Gary?
It's going very good. And this week at least I got to play, more games other than Overwatch, which I'll talk about in the next segment. But yeah, it's been an okay week. I'm doing good. How are you, Rich?
Doing pretty good. I did get to play one game that I will talk about in the segment. And obviously, I went to go see Black Panther, so maybe we'll talk about that a little bit briefly later on as well. But yeah, awesome. So we actually, we may be joined by Dana Abercrombie at some point on this show. I mean, she's currently at a toy fair in New York, so she may or may not show up. It all depends. Max and Mr. Lugo, they're off having to take care of some other business. So we hope that they're doing well and that they accomplish the goals that they set out to accomplish today. But as of right now, me and Gary are just going to talk about a few things going on in the industry as well as what we have been playing. So, Gary, now you can let us know what you've been playing so far this week.
Okay, yeah. So, of course, Overwatch is one of them. So get that out the way. And what should I go? Okay, so I've been playing more of the Hunt Showdown closed beta, and that actually ended on Friday, but I managed to finally get some time in because before it was actually difficult to find a game because I guess not enough people were in the closed beta, but towards the end of the beta I managed to find a couple games, and there's a lot of potential for the game. But it does need some work and some polish, I think. Obviously, I was playing on the PC, and there wasn't any options to change the graphics settings or anything like that. And I have a fairly dated card, so what that meant, I mean, it looked beautiful. The game itself looks amazing. It looks very realistic and everything. The effects are really well done. The only thing is, because my graphics card is dated, it was struggling to, perform. And there wasn't really any settings for me to adjust it so that, I could scale down the textures a little bit so that it runs better. So that was a huge problem for me because it meant I had to struggle with a bad frame rate because, my card couldn't handle it. And that really affected the gameplay for me personally. But the actual game itself is, I can tell it's going to be really fun. Now, what Hunt Showdown is basically, it's a survival game. So, think PUBG and DayZ and, those kind of survival games where you're put into a realm with, I believe it's up to 4 characters, in a team. I really only had another person with me at one time. Yeah, but I've only ever had 2 people in a squad, but I believe you can have 4. And so basically you can have up to 4 players in a team, and you take on a contract to kill a specific monster. In the alpha, there was only 2 monsters. There was a spider and this other weird hybrid creature thing. And basically you're put into this really dark forest. Well, sometimes it's daytime, sometimes it's nighttime, and you have to basically find clues to find the actual monster and slay it and banish it and everything. But there's going to be other players in the world too who are doing their own contracts, and if you come across them, you can fight. Basically, you can try and kill each other and steal each other's supplies or steal each other's bounty or whatever. So it gets really interesting with that aspect in it as well. And you can collect money from each session that you play, and you can level up your characters, get new weapons and abilities and stuff like that as well, and items. So that's really cool. It's a really cool aspect to it. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game once they work out some of the kinks. I think there needs to be more instructions on the main page, or it needs to give you kind of instructions, a walkthrough with the first time you play the game, or maybe a test session or something for newbies just so everyone can get to grips with it easier. But yeah, it's got a lot of potential. I think it's going to be a good game, especially because survival is really in right now. And this game, it's not battle royale. It's like a survival game, but with like a twist, like a real twist to it. So I think it's going to be really good. People should definitely look out for that, and hopefully there'll be an open beta as well, so more people can try that out. And besides that, I also played some more Assassin's Creed Origin because there was an update for that a few weeks ago, and it seems to be performing a lot better than it was before on my GPU. And yeah, that's something else that I really want to address as well, because currently there's been a huge increase in the price of GPUs, and this is all because of cryptocurrency. So while it's good that people are making money and, getting rich of cryptocurrency, other people like me are struggling because I want a new GPU, and now it's like £800 for a GTX 1080. And you can actually buy a PC for that price. Like, so these GPUs are now the price of a full computer, which is crazy. Like, because of the cryptocurrency, is like inflated the price and everything, because people are basically farming the GPUs and stuff for cryptocurrency. So yeah, like it's really annoying because it's right around the time when I was actually going to buy a GPU, and now the prices have just skyrocketed and they've gone crazy. I remember like somebody actually told me that it's actually cheaper to buy a pre-made PC with a GPU in it and then just take it out and use it for your system. Like, that's how crazy the prices are right now. But yeah, that's just a little rant. But yeah, I'm looking forward to playing more Assassin's Creed because, yeah, I really love that series. And I like the changes that they made to Origins. But that's pretty much all I've been playing.
So I just want to make a quick comment based on what you said. Yeah, the cryptocurrency stuff is, I must admit that I don't really fully understand the phenomenon quite yet. I have been receiving a ton of emails about this stuff. And I do know that it is impacting that as well, because I know a couple people that they actually, are in the business of doing this type of stuff. So it does make some money. I mean, so far this year, from what I've seen, it hasn't really, it's actually been a lot less. It usually starts out every year a little rough. So if you was to invest some money into it now, I mean, you may make a little bit of money, but not depending on where you invested, which coin you invested into. So I don't really understand too much about it, but it is bad to hear that it is impacting this other stuff. And hopefully that should get better as the year goes on. But I guess we'll see what happens. And as for a Hunt, I know that this currently is only coming to PC. I do hope that it is coming to consoles in the future, because I have no idea when I will be getting a gaming PC. But it does sound cool, so I definitely need to check that out at some point. So we'll see. As for what I have been playing, there's I didn't really get to play too much because I've had a pretty busy week, a lot of writing and working on a lot of different things that you guys will start to see on the website this week. A couple of reviews that I've been meaning to finish, but I haven't really had the opportunity to finish it, but they will be up on the site this week. And one game that I have been playing, though, is this game that's coming out this upcoming week. It's called Past Cure. So if I was to describe this game, it is basically a psychological action thriller. And there's basically a story about a former soldier that becomes a sort of a lab experiment, and, as the storyline goes, there's this agent we play as, soldier, agent, however you want to preference it. And basically we wake up and there are about 3 years missing from this character's life. So he doesn't understand what happened for the last 3 years. And the game is about you uncovering the past, but also dealing with the present, because he has a condition due to some pills that he was taking, some medication that he was on, that he has now become addicted to. So he's able to do a lot of stuff like slow motion, do things, manipulate time, some telekinesis, that type of stuff. So the way that they envision this game, because the studio that made it, it's actually independent studio. I believe they're called Phantom 8 Studio. They had the idea of making a game that is very similar in nature to a Max Payne, but also along the lines of a quantum break. So essentially, they try to do a lot of things in this game. As an independent studio, this is their first game. Like I said, there's action in it. There's a couple of stealth moments in it where you have to basically complete a mission in stealth. And if you get caught at any point, then the mission has failed and you have to start over. That type of stuff. They do have some puzzles in the game that you also have to figure out. Essentially, what it boils down to for me is that they're trying to do a lot of things to show that they have a different range of things they can do. They actually do have a couple of horror elements in it as well as you get into different levels of the game. So they try a lot of different interesting things, but for me, honestly, a lot of the stuff is not really quite as polished as it needs to be. The story is pretty okay. I mean, it jumps around in different spaces, but to me, I feel as though they wanted this game to just basically be a showcase title to show where we can do a lot of these different things, and we're hoping that we can do a lot more titles in the future. As of right now, I'm currently on the last stage of the game, so I will definitely have a review this week. The embargo doesn't lift until, I believe, February 22nd, so I'll still have a couple more days. But what I can say right now is it's an interesting type of game with a lot of interesting ideas. I think the audience may be a little thrown off because of all the stuff that they're trying to do in this particular game. But from what I have played so far, I mean, it's still a decent game. I mean, I wouldn't say that this is a Max Payne type of game. I know that a lot of people will look at how you play the game and they'll say, well, this reminds me of Max Payne. But this is not that type of game because certain aspects of the gameplay is not as polished as it needs to be. Like, I've had a lot of instances where I would go to shoot a guy, and even it would be a direct headshot, it's like it still wouldn't hit the actual guy. Like, you shoot him, you think it's a direct headshot, and it doesn't even work that way. So some of the game could use a little bit more refining, but on the surface, I mean, like I said, if you're looking for something different and interesting, it's still something worth checking out. I just would say that, go into it knowing that there's a lot of things this game is trying to do. Some of it's okay. Some of it's executed pretty good. And then some of it, you feel like they could have pushed it a little bit further. But again, I'll have my final review and impressions later this week, once I've completed it, because it may get better. Who knows? That final last stage may be significantly better than anything else I've seen in the game. But I will say, though, for what I have played so far, it is a pretty decent game. It's only $30. So, if you are interested in it, definitely check it out. But just know that it's not really quite a perfect game. And honestly, in this world, there's no such thing as a perfect game. It does have its flaws. But, if you need something to play and you want something different, it definitely is not a bad way to go. But as I said, I'll have more to say about this game. So stay tuned for my review later this week. As I said, that pretty much concludes all I have been playing for this week. I didn't get a chance to play too many games. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump right into the main topics. Wait, Gary, you about to say something?
Oh, no.
Okay. All right, cool. Okay, so we're going to jump into the first topic for today. This is something that I'm going to actually have you speak on, Gary, because I didn't really know too much about this. I literally just looked at this story right now. So basically, it has to do with the fact that you can now have a party chat on Xbox Live using your cell phone. So tell us a little bit more information about this, Gary.
Yeah, so basically, Microsoft has expanded the devices that you can, use to participate in their party chats. You could already do it on Windows. So like I could, join a party chat with somebody who's playing on their actual Xbox, but now they've made that available to, phones and I think tablets as well. And the reason they're doing this is because they kind of want to disrupt the other popular chat, apps out there like Discord and TeamSpeak that people seem to default to when they want to, cross chat between platforms and stuff like that. So yeah, basically, I guess they want to disrupt that market. But it's also interesting because this is something Nintendo actually wants to do as well. I believe this is going to be one of the features of their online service when they launch that, because I don't think you can currently do that yet on the Switch. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I know this was one of the things that they were trying to do. So I found it interesting that Microsoft actually chose to go that route as well. So yeah, I just wanted to hear more thoughts on that and whether you think it's a good idea, and is it practical? Is it something you would use?
Well, basically, based on what I heard, essentially, they want it to be so that you can have a conversation. You won't necessarily always need to be on your Xbox. You can also do this on the go. So I think for those that are they really care about Xbox, and they like to have party chats, well, this is great for them because then they don't necessarily need to be at home when they have these conversations. So I think it's a good idea for Microsoft. As for whether or not Nintendo will, is going to start to do this stuff, I haven't really messed around with the Switch as of late. I know their online service is coming later this year, so I'm curious to see how they do it. I know a lot of people have the perception that they're going to do a horrible job with the online. I mean, I don't know yet. I have to see how it goes after the first couple of weeks, because I think the first week is going to be kind of rough as they basically have people using the service, a lot of people using it at the same time. I'm assuming there will be some issues with that in the very beginning, but after that, we'll have to see how they handle that moving forward. But overall, I mean, I think that the party chat feature is good for those that, like I said, if you want to hold the conversation. Normally when I have a conversation on party chat, I have to turn off the console at some point, and then the conversation has to end. So if it's a way for me to continue the conversation on my mobile phone, I would do so. But I mean, I guess it just all depends on who actually uses the party chat in that capacity. But I think it's a good idea. I know I'll be very curious to see if this does catch on and whether or not Sony would consider doing this. I know I just have regular chats with people right now on the PlayStation app on my phone, but a party chat is not something that I've seen you able to do on your phone either. So I'm curious to see if it does become popular and if Sony decides we want to definitely do this with PlayStation. I think that'd be pretty interesting. But yeah, I don't have any problem with this particular use. I think Microsoft right now, they're trying to do as much as possible to make themselves accessible to everybody, whether it's somebody who wants to have a party chat, whether they want to play an Xbox game or PC. I think they're just trying to do everything now to cater to as much people as possible. So I have to commend them on that once again. Even though this is something with just the party chat, I still commend them as a whole for what they've been doing so far this generation, trying to get back in the good graces of everybody and just doing as much as they can for the consumers. So they definitely deserve some props for that. But how about your thoughts on anything I said, Gary? What do you think?
Yeah, I could definitely understand that, and having the convenience of continuing your party chat away from the console is a good thing. If they are actually doing this to try and disrupt stuff like Discord and TeamSpeak, I don't think that should be like their main intention or objective here. I think it should just be looked at as a means to expand the actual platform itself. But also, like, the thing is, like, they have Skype, they own Skype, and I feel like Skype is falling by the wayside. Like, it's just ever since they've bought Skype, it's just kind of gotten worse and worse and worse. Like, there was a lot of spam on there. And I just found like the quality of the calls and everything wasn't that great, and the mobile app wasn't that great either. But I don't understand why they just didn't put more money into Skype and redevelop it and make it a better platform with no ads and stuff, because they put a lot of ads and stuff in there as well, which is really annoying. But if they worked on Skype, because Skype already had like millions of users, like it was the go-to communications app, a while ago, like years ago or whatever. So if they would have just worked on expanding that, they could have, cross integrated that somehow with the Xbox brand, and you probably would have like, you imagine like you can talk to like your mom or your gran or something from your Xbox because they're using Skype already. Like that would have been like great if like if you had, I mean, obviously some people don't want all that, but they just want like gamers and stuff. But like, I don't know, like it makes more sense to me to somehow use that user base you already have on Skype than to, you know, just now try to expand Xbox. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know what Microsoft is doing with Skype anymore. Like, it just seems to be getting worse and worse. And it seems like if they were trying to disrupt the Discord and TeamSpeak crowd, Skype would be the best way to go about that. Because, like, we used to use Skype. Like, you know, we used to run the Koalition on Skype, basically. And now we've switched over to Discord. You know, so, like, a lot of people were on Skype already. Like, they could have, if they want to disrupt the cross-platform communication space, they really should have utilized Skype more, I think, but they've kind of let that slip by the wayside. So yeah, I mean, it depends how you look at it. If you're just looking at it as they want to expand Xbox only, this is a good move. But if you're looking at it as they want to disrupt these other chat communications apps, then I don't think it's going to be that. Like, I don't think it's going to do that at all.
That's a very good point. I mean, as you mentioned, you know, we did used to use Skype with the Koalition, you know, as far as keeping in contact with everybody, but then we eventually moved over to Discord. And I don't really understand what Microsoft's use is for Skype, because they also had it at, you know, you're able to use it on Xbox One as well. So I don't really know what they're doing with that. Maybe they just wanted to buy that out and just say that they own it. But it's a good question of whether or not that would, you know, this whole Xbox Live thing is meant to disrupt the others. I mean, I only think it's only meant to really help Xbox out a little bit further. You know, I just think if people want to have a party chat and then continue that conversation elsewhere, whether it's on a tablet. I mean, I don't know if this also supports tablets. I'm going to assume it does. Tablets as well as the mobile phones. It's just a ways to keep the conversation going. But honestly, I would say at this point in time, it's a great feature to have. I would say. However, they do still need more titles that actually will make someone want to have a party chat. You know, I know Sea of Thieves, that's a game that by all accounts is going to be a very big deal for both Rare and Microsoft. So perhaps, I mean, that's a game that is heavily reliant on conversation and working with the right people. So I think that can definitely be of use for that. Outside of that, you know, I know State of Decay, that's another game supposed to be coming out later this year. So people can look forward to that. And then, of course, Crackdown 3. So I think that the games, once they start releasing these games, maybe these features will be used a lot more heavily. But as of right now, I mean, I think it's a good feature, but I still think you need a reason to use it. Unless you want to just play any type of game, whether it's an old game or anything of that nature, and have a party chat, you can do that also. But I think that the actual games that they're releasing, if they are heavily dependent on having conversations with people, then that will be how this could be utilized even better. But we have to see how that goes, because I don't really know what the full focus is of doing this particular approach. But I don't have anything negative to say about it. I'm just curious to see what the plan is next beyond this.
Yeah, you make a good point though. Like, they definitely need more games, because like you don't want people hopping on the party chat to tell their friends to hop on PS4 and play Last of Us 2 instead, because there's no games or nothing. So yeah, they definitely need to just focus on that for now.
Yeah, no, I agree. No, you don't want that. That wouldn't be good. But luckily, you know, we don't have to think about that, because Last of Us 2, that's a long ways. It definitely ain't coming out this year. I would be surprised if Sony announced that the game is coming out this year, but there's no way. They have too many other games they got to release. The Spider-Man, Days Gone. I mean, both of those games I know for sure are coming out this year. But Last of Us, yeah, we'll see about that. But that's a good one. We'll see. So any other thoughts on this particular topic before we move on to the next topic?
No, that's pretty much it.
Okay, cool. So next up, I'm gonna talk a little bit about Bayonetta. There was some news this week that Bayonetta creator Hideki Kamiya, he explained why Bayonetta remains an exclusive to Nintendo. After fans kept asking him all over Twitter. Now, I'm not going to read the whole Twitter statement because it's a pretty lengthy statement. But all he basically said was that, Nintendo had helped them fund the first Bayonetta. And a lot of fans are showing support for the franchise more so on Nintendo than other consoles. And plus, they signed a contract. So this is why they initially decided Bayonetta 3 will be exclusive to the Nintendo Switch. So my thing with this is, I'm just going to say something real briefly about this, is that, I think the Nintendo Switch, when it came out last year, of course, we got great titles with Super Mario Odyssey and then The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, both great titles. But the thing about it is that, we know that Nintendo, they want to continue to have other games come out, whether it's the first party or these third party deals, so on and so forth. So when they announced that Bayonetta 3 was coming out exclusive to Nintendo Switch, I thought that's an excellent idea because they just had Bayonetta 1 and 2 come out for Switch this past Friday. So I think it's an excellent deal for Nintendo. I mean, they got to have some titles. They're not going to always have the big, huge titles like Red Dead Redemption or GTA. They had the rumor about GTA 5 coming to Switch. We still haven't seen that materialize. Some of those third-party titles will just never come to the Switch. So in this case, knowing that they do have a game like Bayonetta coming, I think that's excellent for Nintendo and their fans because they deserve to have some experiences exclusive to their console. So I don't have a problem with this at all. People that were mad that Bayonetta 3 is not coming to Xbox or PlayStation, I mean, obviously, for the moment, it's exclusive to Nintendo Switch. I wouldn't say it's impossible to think that it can't come to those consoles later. It all depends. But for right now, I think it's great that it's exclusive to Switch because it gives people a reason to keep the Switch, because so far this year, there hasn't really been too many other games to play for Switch, at least not yet. Now, as I mentioned, Bayonetta 1 and 2 is out. For those that didn't get a chance to play that before, they have a chance to do so now on the latest Nintendo console, which is great. But outside of that, there haven't really been any other major titles to come out on Switch so far this year. We know of stuff that is going to get announced later this year. But outside of that, there's not really any other reason to get excited to play the Switch as of right now. If you've already played Bayonetta, you don't want to play it again, I can't think of any other game that you should be playing on Switch right now, especially if you played that as well as Mario and Zelda. So I don't see anything wrong with this deal, but that's just my opinion. Gary, what do you think about Bayonetta 3 being exclusive on the Switch?
Yeah, I don't think anyone should be complaining about it. It's just business at the end of the day. And I know that the first one was multi-platform and there was a lot of people who enjoyed that game. But I think I'm not sure how well it actually sold though. If it's sold millions or anything like that. I know there were people who did like it and enjoy it, but I'm not sure if it was considered a hugely successful game when it came out. So if Nintendo is willing to actually fund the game's development, the sequel and everything, then yeah, they deserve to have it exclusive because they're the ones who believed in the project and want to fund it. So of course it's going to be exclusive to them because they're the one that's putting money into it so that you can actually enjoy the game. So yeah, I mean, it's just one of those things that's just business. If you really want to play it that badly, then get a Switch at the end of the day. And it's just with any other exclusive. I know it sucks because obviously the first one was, multi-platform. So, there's probably people who played the first one who really want to play the second and the third one, but they might not actually want to get a Switch because they don't want all the other Switch games and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, I can understand the frustration there, but it's business, it's gonna happen. And if Nintendo want to put money into it, then that's just the way it's gonna be because they're the ones that have faith in the series enough to keep it going. So it's just the way it's gotta be, unfortunately. So I don't think people should be harassing this guy on Twitter or anything, you know, just because they can't play the game. I mean, it's the Switch isn't that much, like when you compare it to other, you know, consoles and stuff out there. So, you know, if you really want to play it that bad, pick up a Switch and, you know, play it, and maybe give some other games a shot too while you're at it, so that you don't, you know, waste that investment. But yeah, that's just the way it is, unfortunately. I mean, even I would like to play the Bayonetta games, but, you know, I'm just not ready to get a Switch just yet. So I'm going to wait out for that. But yeah, it's just business at the end of the day.
Absolutely. One other thing I will say very quickly, and then we will pass it over to Dana if she is able to join us. One thing I will just add is that you know, he did mention that Sega and Nintendo have the rights to the IP. So, you know, he did mention that there was a port that was made for the PS3 for the other Bayonetta game. That was why people saw that on another console. So, I mean, at the end of the day, though, yeah, I agree that this is all about business. People shouldn't be offended by it. They shouldn't be mad about it. They got to understand. But you know, I also think that we live in a time where a lot of gamers feel entitled. They feel like they deserve every single game under the sun to come out on their platform, even if it isn't coming out on the platform. So I think people really need to understand and learn the concept of how this business works. Like, we can look at a game such as a game that you liked very much last year, Gary. What's that Cliffy B shooter, Lawbreakers? I think you was asking. Yeah, when there were people mad because it wasn't coming to Xbox One, and Cliffy B just said, listen, you know, we have to worry about our team, and, you know, it's about making sure they get paid. They spend all this time working on this game, a lot of sacrifices made, so they have to make sure they make their money. This is why they announced it's coming to PlayStation 4 and PC. Now, unfortunately, that story did not end well, because that game, there's hardly anybody playing it now. I'll be surprised if there's at least 4 people playing it at this current moment in time. But at the end of the day, we know that Nintendo fans supported Bayonetta. This is the whole reason why we got a Bayonetta 3. So I don't have anything wrong with the deal. I think it's business as usual. And again, if people really, really want to play it, they just need to go pick up a Switch and play it. It's just there's no other alternative to that. But again, just my opinion, you know. So Dana, are you able to tell us what do you think about this whole Bayonetta being exclusive to the Nintendo Switch?
Sorry. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I completely apologize. I'm like currently in recording hell. But I think that it's great that they're coming to the Switch. The problem that we always kept saying was that there wasn't enough exclusives. Remember? And now that we have exclusives, people are complaining because they don't have a Nintendo Switch. I'm confused about how they think the world works. If they don't like it, then I will buy a Switch. If you're not going to buy a Switch, then you literally have nothing to complain about. That's on you. That's something that you can do to change your anger, and you refuse to do. It's not getting changed. Buy a Switch. There's a holiday coming up. I doubt it will ever be on sale because Nintendo hates sales. But save up and be an adult and buy something and be happy. Also, really quickly, what you guys were previously saying about the Xbox Live chat, I think that is something that's too late. It should have been a while ago. I don't know why we're waiting for it now, especially when there's so many different apps and ways that we can all have a Xbox Live, you know, chat. So I don't know what they're waiting for. It sucks. Too little, too late, but good for them. If they can capitalize on it, then good for them.
Oh, someone getting cussed out.
Very good. You know, well, those are some very good points on both. You know, Xbox. For those who didn't hear, she said they should have did this Xbox Live thing. I mean, I agree with that. Yeah, I have no complaints. And once again, she pretty much said the same thing we said about Bayonetta 3, which is that, you know, it definitely, if people want to play it. Oh, there you go.
About something that you have the option to change, to fix. You complain that there's no exclusives. You get exclusives and you're complaining. What exactly do you want people to do? Do you want Nintendo to hand you a Switch, or do you want to be an adult and get something that you've complained about?
Yeah, that's the Dana I like to hear right there. Loud and raw.
Understand what people are complaining about. That's like me saying, oh, I wish I was rich, then I get a whole bunch of money and be like, oh my god, I wish I was poor again. Just buy it.
I agree.
And if
I agree.
I don't understand. Are you mad at the fact that you can't afford it? Save, borrow a friend, you know, find a way. You can struggle about not having enough games, and you can struggle to get the game.
Yeah, that's true. I agree. Although I do have to disagree with one thing you said. The people who wish that they were rich, that's impossible because I'm already rich. You see, so that's all I have to say about that.
That was a good one. That was a good one.
Yeah. So
props for that.
I definitely agree with everything you had to say about that. Yeah, people just finding reasons to complain about all types of stuff. So
voices to be heard, and nobody needs to hear you speak. That's all.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. So Gary, you have anything else to say on this before we move on to the next topic?
No, I pretty much agree. You know, it's capitalism at the end of the day. You know, that's what it's all about. So you want to play the game, you got to buy a Switch.
That's right. Like Triple H says, it's all about the game and how you play it. So yeah.
Thank you. It's all about control and how you take it. You got to take control, like you take control of that Switch.
Absolutely. Yes. Okay. So we're going to move on now to the next topic. And this is a topic that I know y'all both will have a lot to say about this. This is a great topic. CD Projekt Red, they recently made a statement and they said that they really dislike loot boxes. And they think that all of the backlash that has been getting so far in the industry is great. So just for those for whatever reason don't know who CD Projekt Red is, this is a studio that made the Witcher games. They're currently working on Cyberpunk 2077. Okay, Gary, you start us off and let us know, what are your thoughts on this? I know you have told me before you love loot boxes, and you know the way that Overwatch uses them, you love that as well. So what do you think about them making this statement to say that they dislike loot boxes and they're glad that it's getting a bad rap in the industry?
Oh, that's hilarious. I never said I like loot boxes, but I do like the way Overwatch does it. That's the way I kind of approve of, because you know it's related to cosmetics only, and it doesn't force you to get it. Like it doesn't affect gameplay in any way. So that's where I can, you know, accept it and tolerate it, because at that point it's a choice, you know, and if you want to support the developer by buying a loot box, then you can do that. But yeah, some of these other games like Star Wars and everything else that came out, you know, they're kind of forcing you down that road to buying the loot boxes, and it's like pay to play. So CD Projekt, we've said again and again over the years, me and Rich, you know, they're like one of the best gaming companies out there right now. You know, we've met them in person numerous times, and they treat us really well. Like they always put a lot of effort into their presentations and everything. And they create some of the best games. Like The Witcher 3 had too much content for me. Like I never thought there would be a game that has too much content, but that's a good thing, because I got my money's worth. Well, I mean, I didn't even buy the game, first of all, because they actually gave it to us like for free, a year before it came out, by the way, because they're that cool. But yeah, if there's some DLC or something, like I actually want to buy it just because I feel like they deserve it. You know, like they go out of their way to give you enough content to where you can feel validated in your purchase. Like you'll go away from their games feeling like a satisfied customer for sure, because even if you don't manage to complete the game, you'll be happy in knowing that there was so much for you to do in the game. You had so much fun with the game, and you enjoyed your time with the game, and you know you're just completely satisfied, even if you never complete it. Because for me, there was so much content, I just couldn't complete it, because you know I still want to go back to it one day. But yeah, like I played it for like almost 100 hours, and you know I got like halfway through the story or something, but there was just so much content in there, and I feel satisfied, you know, like I feel happy, like I feel fulfilled after playing that. Like, you know, it's an amazing game. And for that, I will support any game that they have. You know, any game they put out, I'm gonna be there to support it. Even Gwent is amazing. You know, like even their side games or whatever, like they're amazing too. And you know, like I completely agree with what they're saying here. They're basically saying that, you know, gamers have the right to call out these companies for, you know, forcing you down the road of buying loot boxes, because they feel that a studio, a developer should ensure that, you know, they're putting the value of the game and the content first before anything, before monetary purposes. They should, like all publishers and studios, should be focusing on making a complete product for the consumer. And you know, so they like, the way they feel about it is that consumers have every right to call out these other publishers and developers for building their game around loot boxes, because that's not creating a complete product. That's actually crippling the game in hopes that people are gonna, you know, pay extra for added content, or you know, to get extra bragging rights, or to you know, earn some item that's going to help them win more, you know, basically. Like, and that's not a model that should be promoted within the video game industry. And I'm sure we all completely agree with that, you know, and I appreciate them for being bold enough to actually say this as well, because I'm sure there's a lot of other publishers looking at them like, why the hell are these guys talking like that? Like, you know, like talking greasy about us. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of other publishers that kind of resent them making those kind of statements. But that's what I really respect about CD Projekt. Like, they do their own thing, they focus on their own games, and they really excel at it. And, you know, they put the consumer first, they put the gamers first, you know, in everything they do. Even like with The Witcher 3, I believe like the first few DLCs were completely free as well. Like, there was free DLC on top of all the content they already gave you in the game. Like, so yeah, CD Projekt are the best developers out right now.
I would say that they're definitely in the top 3. I have to put Rockstar up there also, but they definitely on that list at the very top. The reason, one thing I want to say real quick, and then I'm going to pass the mic over to Dana. The reason why they wanted to speak out about this is because last year, when Star Wars Battlefront 2 came out, and they had all the controversies surrounding loot boxes, they had announced that Cyberpunk 2077 is also going to have multiplayer, and that prompted fans to already say, "Oh, so it's going to have loot boxes?" And they were very clear and adamant, said, "No, it's not." So, you know, I think it's a little ridiculous that people even started to question them and ask them about that, you know. But honestly, I'm glad they clarified that. I'm glad they've made the statement so that people know exactly where they stand on the whole controversy with loot boxes. And I mean, I'm looking forward to their next game whenever it comes out. I mean, I doubt it's going to come out this year. Maybe we'll get a trailer or something this year at E3, but whenever it does come out, they definitely have my full support, and I will be checking it out. So, Dana, what are your thoughts on CD Projekt Red taking a stance against loot boxes?
Sorry, I was on mute. Huh? I guess I'm gonna have to be the one who's the cynic here and think that they're just trying to jump on the bandwagon and being all positive. I don't think they really care either way, because again, it's all about money. But if they go about playing the good guys, then that translates to, hey, we can sell more games because everybody's mad at, say, Battlefront 2 and EA and every other company that's doing loot boxes. I don't really think they care. But for the consumer point of view, they make good games, so it's a win for us either way. But I don't think they care. Like, if, for example, if Battlefront 2, with the whole loot box situation, if that didn't make much controversy, if that never came on, you know, we have like the stock market shows over here, like NBC and MSNBC and all those special shows. If it really never made the news, then I think this company as well would have probably had loot boxes just as much as any other company. So I just think that they're just trying to play the good guys, but it's all about money in the end, and they don't want to lose money, so they're going to make that statement saying that they really care about the customer.
Yeah, I just want to say that is a very honest and real response to that question. We yeah, and you are 100% correct. You know, we have to acknowledge that this is always a business. It's always about making money. So, you know, yeah, you'll definitely say some stuff to win over some consumers. That is a fair point to say.
Say anything, just as long as it's a trend, and you know that's all that matters to them. It's just money. So stop thinking that people in these companies care about you and they care about their consumers. They don't. Because if you wasn't a part of that group complaining, then I'm pretty sure they would have some type of loot box where they would take all your money too.
Well, Gary, what do you think about that? Because the thing is this, I agree with what Dana is saying. And I think that some of the people that are in that company, even the higher ups, obviously they would use this as a strategy to talk about certain aspects of, you know, to make it look like, no, we don't support this, so therefore we're doing what's right and we're behind you 100%. But I also have a mindset because of the fact that when we did see them at E3 that one time, when we saw the gameplay of Witcher 3 that they showed us, and the fact that they made sure everybody who went to who had an appointment with them got that bag, and the bag that had a code for the game a year before the game even came out that you could redeem on there, that told me that, well, they want people to experience the game. So, I mean, I don't necessarily think everyone at CD Projekt has that negative intention. I do think there are some good people there. But, Gary, I want to get your opinion on this because I'm just curious to see what your response is.
Yeah, I mean, like, I see what you guys are saying, and that does happen. Like, there are companies out there who kind of piggyback off of what has happened, like anything negative that happens, and they try and distance themselves from it publicly, saying, yeah, we're not about that, we don't do that, or whatever. But with CD Projekt in particular, they have a proven track record of, you know, always putting the consumer first. Like, it's, you know, even before like DLC was a big thing, you know, in their early games like Witcher 1 and 2, they were always, you know, very pro-consumer back then. And they've always had like a huge following because of it. Like, if you remember, when The Witcher 2 came out, it was heavily pirated, like when it first came out on PC and stuff. But people were so impressed with the game and so in love with the content and everything else behind it, like the development and everything, and the CD Projekt support for the game, that they actually went and bought it. So people who pirated the game, they all actually campaigned to buy the game as well, you know, just because they wanted to support them that much, because they respected what CD Projekt did for their fans, like, you know. So they have a proven track record for me personally, and meeting them in person as well and everything that we talked about, you know, they have that track record of always putting the consumer first already. So I don't think it's that much of a marketing thing for them. It's just their company ethos altogether. Obviously, statements like this are put out into the media and it gives them good PR. So, you know, obviously it's doing good for them to kind of bash or knock what other companies have been doing, but it does fit what their company is actually about as well, and what they have been about in the past. So that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, yes, yeah. I mean, it could be interpreted many different ways. But honestly, I mean, I'm glad to hear that they don't support the loot boxes. Now, I just want to hear more about Cyberpunk 2077. So hopefully we'll get more news about that soon. Get a better idea as to what this game is about, because we literally know no information about it whatsoever. So we'll see how that turns out. But any final thoughts on this topic before we move on to the next topic?
No, not from me.
Okay, so I want to throw this in there. And I don't really know if this is a discussion that, well, Dana dropped out. Well, maybe we'll save it then and wait for her to return. Okay, yeah, we'll save that. So let's talk about this news regarding THQ Nordic. You know, I believe it was a couple of days ago, they actually acquired the rights to Saints Row, Dead Island, and there's a couple other games they acquired, including Metro. Now, for those who don't know, and we know about this because we had spoke about this story in the past where the original THQ went under because of a lot of things. There was a lot of titles they released that weren't making the money that they needed to make. A lot of budgets lost, so on and so forth. So as a result of that, a lot of their IPs ended up going over to Deep Silver, and they lost some of that stuff. So initially, what happened is Nordic came out of nowhere and decided to buy up a lot of the rights to a lot of these older titles. You know, you have Darksiders, and then we got the announcement that Darksiders 3 is going to be coming out, I guess, sometime later this year, if not next year. But this news in regards to the Saints Row franchise, Dead Island, and Homefront, and all these other IPs that they have now purchased back with THQ Nordic. I personally think that this is excellent news. One thing I will say is that when I went to PAX West this past year in Seattle, I did have an appointment to see a couple of games. I did see Biomutant. That game looked fantastic. But initially, every game that I saw that they had at that appointment that THQ Nordic is putting out, all of these games look high quality. Now, some of them may not have been all major hits. Like they had this game called Elex, which is like a sci-fi shooter type of game. That game, just okay, not really all that great, but they had such a strong body of work of all the titles that they were releasing. I was like, you know, this company, they definitely, a lot of titles I was interested in, of course, Battle Chasers, another game that I had played in review on the website, which is fantastic. But a lot of the games that they had at that PAX West appointment, that told me that, okay, you know, they have a strong lineup of games. So I'm curious to see what it's going to look like in the future when they start releasing these titles and other titles. And now knowing that they have acquired the rights back to all these other games, it makes me, you know, feel very good about the future of these franchises. Now, I know with Saints Row, we obviously got Agents of Mayhem last year. That game, not really too good of a game. And a lot of people complained about it. But Saints Row is a franchise a lot of people love and respect. They want to see it, you know, somehow get rebooted and changed up. So maybe now we'll get that. Dead Island, another franchise that, in my opinion, we saw that trailer for Dead Island 2 a long time ago and never heard nothing else about the game. So I'm curious to know what's going on with that, whether or not we're still going to get that or another game, you know. And then, of course, Homefront, another game that I guess the first game was received okay. The second game was universally panned by critics everywhere. So, I mean, all of this is good for these IPs. I'm very curious to see what THQ Nordic does. So just to know that they have now acquired the rights back to all of those, I think it's great for them moving forward. So, yeah, I have to say I'm very curious to see what's going to happen now as a result of this move, and I congratulate them for making that purchase. But Gary, what do you think about THQ Nordic acquiring the rights to all these franchises once again?
Yeah, so before I give my thoughts, I just want to give you know, the listeners a bit of background on THQ Nordic, you know, just in case it's not widely known how this happened. But basically, like, they used to be called Nordic, just Nordic Games, you know, and obviously we know what happened with THQ. You know, they went bust and they had to sell off a lot of their IPs, and they sold off their IPs to, you know, other publishers and stuff. But then Nordic Games actually acquired the rest of THQ, you know, the actual brand THQ. They acquired that, you know, and in 2016 is when they actually changed their name to THQ Nordic and started going by that name because, you know, obviously THQ is a name that's well known in the gaming industry. So by fusing that into their name, they would have more recognition instantly. So yeah, now fast forward to now, you know, obviously Deep Silver has been doing their thing. You know, they've tried to remain relevant with, you know, making you know, Saints Row and Agents of Mayhem and Dead Island and things of that nature. And they've done a pretty good job of, you know, staying relevant and stuff. And now that THQ Nordic, you know, the remains of THQ has brought that company back, I think that's pretty amazing, to be honest with you, because it's like they've now come full circle again, and that's going to strengthen the brand significantly once again. And you know, in the future, who knows, they might actually be back where they were before, and they may even excel further than what they were before, if they continue to buy you know, IPs and stuff. And just to let everyone know as well, Deep Silver is actually a publishing partner of Shenmue 3, so you know, they've got some pretty big names attached to that brand now, and I think that's a good thing for the future for them. I think they've got a promising future, and it's just like, it's a really happy kind of story in the industry just to see THQ making a comeback, sort of, and you know, now they have the potential to be back where they were before, because there was a time where THQ had some of the, you know, most I mean, you know, they wasn't seen as like a top tier publisher, like, you know, Rockstar or EA or anything like that, or Activision, but they were kind of like a step below, but they had major IPs that people loved still, you know. They've had a few flops in the past, of course, you know, we're not gonna excuse that. Like, they've had some flops, but they did have a lot of great IPs and games that people did love. So I do want to see them win. I do want to see them make a comeback, and hopefully they'll, you know, even buy some of the other IPs that they had as well. Maybe they'll get a chance to do that. Either that, or they can just, they've got enough power now where they can just start new IPs even and have them be successful. So I think this is a great story that, you know, a lot of gamers should be celebrating right now, because it was, you know, a sad story when THQ kind of went bust and everything, and a lot of people lost their jobs and they had to sell off IPs and everything. So I think it's great that, you know, the remains of THQ are coming back and they're buying back some of their IPs and stuff. I think that's great to see.
I agree, 100%. Okay, Dana, you have any thoughts on THQ Nordic?
Gary was 100% shady in his whole thing. He was like, well, they tried, but they failed. Basically, good for them if they want to come back. I hope they make decent games this time. Sorry, but Dead Island, the only thing that was good about it was the trailer. And that was just them playing a regular trailer backwards. So that's not saying much. But if you can make games that are actually playable and good, then good for you. I don't want to see any, you know, of the old stuff. I want to see something brand new. Be creative. Be different. And tell us that you're better than Dead Island and a backwards trailer.
I agree. We'll see what happens. Yeah, that Dead Island too. I mean, I remember seeing that trailer. That had to be almost 3 years ago, and like wondering where the hell is the sequel at. So I don't know what's going on with that, but I guess we'll get an answer at some point. But yeah, looking forward to seeing what they do next.
No, I don't want them to have an update. I'm sorry. Your dream sequel will not be coming true. That we don't need that game. That game did nothing for us. When they did have it, it did nothing. I don't need a sequel. I don't need another one. I'm good. We have enough zombie games as it is. Be imaginative. I don't know. Give me something with robots or something. You know, just don't bring back your old stuff. Did they used to do WWE games?
Yeah, they did actually.
Yeah,
there you go. If you want to prove to me that you're worth a second coming, do a decent wrestling game. Because what's going on right now with that whole, what was it, 2K 18, 19, 20, or whatever ones that we're on now is not good. So do a decent wrestling game, and there you, right there, you stay. I like you. You're worth your second comeback. I'm with you. So do that. If you want to do one of your old stuff, do a game. Did they do No Mercy? Who did No Mercy?
I don't really know. No Mercy. WWE No Mercy? Isn't that
wasn't that Acclaim or something?
I have to look it up.
Well, then they should work with who No Mercy and give me a remastered version of No Mercy.
Well, first they will need to buy back that license from 2K and say, "Hey, listen, we need to take over this WWE franchise again."
I'll set up a GoFundMe page. There's a lot of people willing to contribute.
Yeah, they did do No Mercy. I'm looking at it now. Yeah. So.
Remaster. I want remaster. So I'm extremely happy they came back. I get my remastered. Everyone's happy. Yay.
Just keep in mind they work with the AKI Corporation, so I don't even know if those guys are making games anymore.
Probably you don't need other people to make a game. You just make the game. I want a No Mercy reboot. I want some remastered. I want something.
Well, hey, we'll see. We'll see what happens. What were you gonna say, Gary?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think she makes a great point because they did make some of the best wrestling games that we've ever seen. The only problem is
we don't have anymore. No more wrestling games. We don't have a decent wrestling game. Not even New Japan isn't doing anything. TNA something, but my God, that was disrespectful. What do we have? Fire Pro? You think I want to walk these streets saying, "Yay, I'm playing Fire Pro"? No.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah,
like go.
The problem is that now 2K has the rights to WWE, so they can't just bring back the WWE games.
There's no problems. There's no problems. It's just alternative ways of getting around situations. That's not a problem. That's just life.
Like I was gonna say, I think they should just come up with a generic wrestling game, and do it better than 2K. Like if they come out with a wrestling, they could even partner with New Japan if they wanted to. But if they come out with a wrestling game that's way better than 2K, the spotlight is going to be on them again, and WWE might even come knocking. Like whenever their deal is expired with 2K or whatever, they might come knocking at their door again.
Well, what might happen in that case, 2K could always pull an EA and say, "Oh, wait a second, they trying to take the they'll try to find some type of loophole to get around that and make sure that game doesn't continue to sell. Maybe they'll lower the price of WWE 2K19 or 20 or whenever they decide to release that game.
Except for old grandmas for their children or their grandchildren. Nobody is buying it." And like says about that MPD or whatever it's called, rankings that come in every month, those are fake.
Well, hey, we'll see.
Buys a certain amount of games so that they can make the list. There's no way in the world that all those people bought 2K18, and if you go online to Xbox or PS4 and you look up your little friends, and guess what they're playing? It ain't no 2K18.
They're playing Monster Hunter World and Dragon Ball Fighter Z.
And this is even when the game came out. Not a single one of my friends was like, "Oh my God, I'm playing 2K18. Yay." No.
Well, there is one person we know that's still playing it, and that's Adam Vale, WrestleCast.
Bless his heart. He better. He's stuck in Iowa. All they have is 2K18. But no. So, you know what? And piggyback off of what Gary said, create a wrestler game. Boom. There you have it.
Yeah. That could be quite successful. We'll see what happens. But THQ Nordic, I look forward to seeing whatever they release next. I know they got Darksiders 3. That is going to be coming out. I just don't know when it's coming out because they didn't. I thought they said 2018, but there wasn't a firm.
There's no games coming out. No, there's no games. There's no games coming out in 2018. That's a lie. No.
Oh yeah, no. They got Biomutant. That's confirmed. So.
Lord. Okay, the same amount of people who's playing 2K18 is playing Bio whatever. No. Oh, and also, maybe it's just me, but I never liked their name Nordic. It just sounds like a jacket.
THQ Nordic
jacket meant for the winter. But it's good though. It's well made. You're not going to freeze to death. You can just wear that jacket. But I think they should change their name. I don't like that name.
Well, no. By you said Nordic is good. Well made. So yeah, maybe that means well made games from now on. So that's why it's THQ Nordic.
One can hope. One hopes that it's stuffed with the goose or whatever it is that they stuff it with to make you nice and warm and insulated. And not, toilet paper. Like, they were before.
That's true. That's true. That's true. All right, so we'll see. We'll see what happens. So, any final thoughts on this topic before we move on to the next topic?
No, I think everyone wants to get to this topic.
Yeah. Okay. So, this is going to be, I guess, a pretty free flow discussion. We got to talk about Black Panther because unless you're living under a tree, you probably didn't notice this movie came out this past Friday, February 16th, or February 15th for those of you that went and saw it on Thursday night. I really don't know if we should get into any spoilers because I'm pretty sure there's some people that still haven't seen this movie, and why, I have no idea. But definitely want to speak about the movie because I think the movie was fantastic. Again, I don't really know if we should give any spoilers per se, but maybe we'll have a spoiler session and you can tell people don't listen past this part. But Dana, how about you start us off and let us know what you think about Black Panther, but also let us know about the little story that you had where someone tried to tell you about the importance of the movie.
Lord and Black Jesus. Okay, so if you don't know, I'm stuck down here at the toy fair, which, you know, is all industry and people who create toys and people who buy toys and people like me who does the press. Now this was really funny because I captured all of this on my Facebook Live video. So I'm doing just a regular tour of the floor, you know, and everything's going great. And I had this white woman run up to me. Oh my gosh, I just saw Black Panther. I am so proud you guys have a superhero you can look up to. And she was like very excited about this movie. And apparently, before this movie came about, you know, Black people apparently, according to her, had no ways to pull themselves up from their bootstraps to strive to be better people. And she gives me this whole lecture about her biracial children. And she kept emphasizing that even though they're biracial, they got into Yale and Brown and Harvard. And, you know, they deferred to some of these other colleges. They also got into Columbia as well. But despite their hardships as a biracial child, they now know that with Black Panther, they can be their own superhero. And this is not the first time that this has happened to me. This is about the third time in a 2-day span that I have had white people come up to me and be like, oh my God, you have a hero. We're so proud. Don't do that to anybody who is, you know, a person of color. Just just don't do it. I don't care if your heart's in the right place. I don't care if you're marching with the NAACP every single day. I don't care if you're a Jesse Jackson supporter or you're right there with your Al Sharpton wig on saying, yay, Black people. Just don't do it. Because it's not only is it rude, it's disrespectful. Yes, it's wonderful that we have this superhero who represents us and comes from Africa, even though it's a fictional land, but it comes from Africa and, you know, there are kings and queens and it's something other than Medea and something other than, you know, us being Crime Time or us being the poor Black kid in Precious. Yes, this is great. But at the same time, we already know our self-worth and we don't need a movie to define us. So don't do that. Now, end of rant right there. Just say no. Just, you know, march with us in silence. But just don't come up to us and say that. Also, this movie, what I loved about it, did something that no other Marvel movie could do, and that's give us an actual villain. And even though in my heart, I don't see him as being a villain, as in like, say, a Thanos type thing with world domination, kill everybody. I viewed him as being, yes, he was a villain because he was against what we're all supposed to be rooting for. But he also had his own set ways of which it was grounded in realistic. It was realistic in everything that he fought for. And I'm not going to go into spoilers because I know a lot of people. In New York City, it's hard as heck to get tickets to. I think there's a screening at like 8 a.m. is the only thing that's available. And there's only like 10 tickets left. So it's really hard to get any type of tickets. So I'm not going to spoil it. But I will say this. I was so proud to see a villain that was actually a villain and also was three-dimensional. Yes, he was a villain. No, he wasn't a villain. Yes, he stood for his people and wanted everything to work out. But yes, he wanted to see, and it wasn't anti-white. Let's just stop that right there. No shape or form is this movie anti-white. Just because you have a movie that's pro-black does not automatically make it anti-white. We're all living in the same world, and as the movie showed, we're all living in the same world, and the point is to work together. So my whole thing is it had a villain that actually was a villain, was one of the best villains. It was one of the best movies that I've seen overall. Me with Marvel, their thing is that, yeah, they're really great with action. Sometimes their story lacks, or sometimes they try too hard to be really funny. For example, Guardians of the Galaxy 2. Let's try to be funny, and the story was butthole. Or, you know, let's throw in this action scene at Thor Ragnarok, and, you know, you're forgetting about other characters. Or let's focus on Hulk speaking like a 3-year-old. Where's the other Avengers, and how do they play into this? But this was the first Marvel movie where it encompassed everything. It took all of everything that all the fans, you know, griped about, and it was like, we're not going to do this. We're going to be better. And I think, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think that because it was our first, I'm not going to say our first Black superhero movie, because I'm well aware of Blade. I'm well of the Meteor Man. I'm aware of Meteor Man as well. But because it was the first Black Marvel superhero blockbuster, let's forget about Blade and the other ones for a minute. But this was something that worked with the MCU, that had this huge story, that's going to have this big climactic ending when we get to Infinity Wars 2, Infinity Wars Part 1, and the other, Phase 5. I don't know what phase are we on. I think we're on 4. But when we get into these other phases of the movie, it's going to have a huge impact, because this is a country, not just a single person, but a country that's affected by Thanos. So I think because the stakes were automatically higher, and then yes, we have, you know, we want a movie, the Black movie, to be successful, and we want to prove that we're just as good as Captain America. So it had a lot riding on its shoulders, and it delivered. And if you looked, there was an interview that Kevin Feige did with Ryan Coogler, who I met a while ago. I mistaken him for a teenager. We had a lovely conversation of me not knowing who he was. And at the end of the conversation, I'm like, I hope you do good. And, you know, in your directing path, I didn't know who he was. If you look at him, he looks like a teenager. So I'm like, yeah, I hope you get into film school one day. Anyway, what he did, it raised the bar for other movies, and it pleased everyone. All the gripes that we had. So for me, it was just one of those movies that you have to watch again and again and again to get all of the little nuances that they did, all the touches of culture, all the touches of the script, because everybody is so involved with it. The theater I went into, you know, everybody was laughing and, you know, cheering. So there are moments, even the quiet ones, you have to pay attention to. So it's something that you have to watch again and again and again. And also, can we just get a round of applause for Forrest Whitaker, and he fixed his eye? That was the greatest thing ever. Like, you fixed Forrest Whitaker's eye. I am going to Wakanda, which in my head is right next to Zamunda. So I'm very happy.
Absolutely. I agree with so many points that you said. They're all on point. There are two things that I want to say, but Gary, I'm gonna let you go first, because I know you saw the movie yesterday with Ramis. So yeah, you could tell us your thoughts. But again, I guess no spoilers, because we do have some people in the chat that still haven't seen it. So go ahead.
Yeah, amazing movie, excellent. I really loved it. For, you know, if you do happen to be a person of color, you're obviously going to feel very empowered by this movie. You know, it speaks to us, but also, you know, I don't want people of other, you know, race to kind of think that they're going to be left out watching the movie as well, because at the end of the day, it's still a very human movie. It's a movie that anyone can kind of relate to. It's just that, you know, it plays a lot on history and the things that have happened in the past in society. And in my opinion, it makes it right. You know, it's a movie for everyone. It speaks to everyone, but obviously people of color, you know, that you're going to understand certain things that not everyone might be able to see as well. So with that being said, I think Killmonger was an excellent villain, probably the best we've seen in an MCU movie so far. And you know, like Dana said, you might not even want to call him a villain. Like I've seen people say that he's an anti-hero, you know, online and stuff like that. And you know, you can make that argument. Like he's not, yeah, he's a product of his environment. He's a product of society. He's a product of what's happened in, you know, history and everything like that. And obviously he goes about his mission in a way that not everyone can agree with, because you know he wants to, you know, harm people and stuff. But you know, he, like, you can fully understand his struggle, and he's very humanized. You know, I don't want to say too much, but yeah, like he's very real. He feels very real, and he says one of the realest things I've ever heard in a movie like this. You know, this large, like, from coming from any Marvel movie, he says one line in the film that's just super real, and I can't spoil that, of course, but yeah. Michael B. Jordan did amazing. I could even I'll even go on record and say that that character Killmonger stole the show. Like he's like the shining star of the film. He even outshined Black Panther himself. But Black Panther is also great too. Like, you know, he's great, and obviously he represents the good side, the human side of people. So yeah, he represents what's right, you know, about the world and everything.
Don't represent what's human and all what's right. It's just a different point of view of what's right.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I mean, there's many ways to look at that. Like, I can't really articulate it more without, you know, spoiling. So yeah, I'll just agree with you there. But yeah, like Killmonger was definitely a standout to this film, in my opinion. But the whole cast was great. There was a lot of talent in the film. Even the ladies were doing their thing. Like, you know, they were getting it in. Like they were going ham. You know, like the lady who plays Michonne in Walking Dead, she was really good. And Lupita, I think, I can't remember how to pronounce the name, but the other
Lupita
female actress. Huh?
Lupita Nyong'o.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, she did an excellent job as well. And it was just an overall great cast of characters. And just to address all the people who are acting really silly over racial issues and stuff towards this film, like, it's really not that big a deal. Like, I don't understand why there's all this racial tension and stupidity, like what Dana was talking about. Like, I really don't understand why all that is happening. Like, it's not that big a deal. Like, the way people were talking about the movie leading up to me seeing it, I thought, wow, there must be like some real crazy stuff in this movie for people to be acting like this. But when I went to see it, it was just like there's really nothing like crazy. Like, it's just real. You know, it's real everyday stuff that happens, you know, or has happened. And I don't understand where all this racial tension and all these silly comments are coming from online. Like, it's not that big a deal. Like, and like I said before, this is a movie anyone can watch and enjoy and understand, in my opinion. And if you struggle to understand it, or if you have some sort of issue with it, then maybe there's actually an issue with you. You know, that's what I'll say to people who somehow find some sort of racial issue with the movie. Maybe the issue is with you, like, because I don't see what, you know, in that film is offensive or, you know, anything. It's just real. Like, it represents what's happened. That's it. But
Right, and also if you're feeling salty, go and watch Captain America. That'll cool you down.
Exactly.
Other superhero movie that's out there. Go watch Batman.
Yeah, and that's another thing I want to say, because there was actually some critic or someone, some media person came out and said the film is overwhelmingly black. Okay, what about all the 5 million overwhelmingly white movies out there? Like, why don't you go watch one of those instead? Like, obviously you've got options. So
yes, you don't have many options. We still don't have a superhero Native American or, you know, an Asian movie. that with superheroes. But for right now, we have one movie, and you know, if you want to count a little bit of Blade and a little bit of Meteor Man, which is not at the same level, you know, basically one movie in the mix of what 500 that come out every year. So I don't understand what you're complaining. And also, I just want to piggyback really quickly and just say that, oh my goodness, there's like, oh, everybody's showing out and showing up for Black Panther. You know, there's a lot of videos on social media where people are coming in playing African drums. They're wearing dashikis. They're wearing all of these different costumes. We're doing the exact same thing that people do when they go see Harry Potter, or they go see The Lord of the Rings, or they go see any other of these franchises that people like to do cosplay with. Except for this is the first time that we actually have a movie that portrays a Black superhero like this. So yes, we're going to dress up and we're going to be really excited about it. Just like you did when you know, did your Harry Potter, your little Lord of the Rings, or any other movie that came out. People was dressed up as Captain America, or, you know, Avengers, and everybody flipped out about that. Be your Hulk inside. We're going to be T'Challa. So I don't see what the problem is.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to get too deep, but yeah, I completely agree. And anyone who has an issue with seeing people dress up like in African garments and dashikis and stuff like that, those people are probably just scared that there's going to be some sort of uprising. Like, you need to, you know, obviously that's some deep level of guilt that you're feeling, and, you know, you're scared that it's gonna, you know, that there's going to be some sort of uprising. But yeah, people should be happy to just celebrate the movie that's representing them and that's speaking to them. So there's no issue with people dressing up, you know, at all. And like you said, they've done it for other movies. So there shouldn't be an issue.
Nope. They just salty about the Birth of a Nation with Nate Parker.
Yeah, they were salty about that film too. So.
He's scared.
That's
they
right.
tried to sabotage that movie. So yeah.
Well, it worked. It worked for him. It definitely worked in his favor. He has, you know, but he's trying to recover now, I guess, whatever he's doing now.
He's doing a web series. Good for him. What they did was terrible because, you know, Casey Affleck and Ben Affleck on these streets touching and grabbing and groping. But okay.
Yeah. Well, you're right. You're right. We'll see. So, I mean, you guys have already said a lot about the movie. I don't really feel like I have too much more to add. I will just say two things. I agree that the story was fantastic. Michael B. Jordan, excellent villain. And he definitely deserves in that discussion now. When they have a discussion about the top villains in these MCU movies, this guy has to be at the very top of the list. You know, I know we're going to get Thanos in Infinity War. I'll be very curious to see how that's handled now, because
I have such disappointment for that. I don't see it going that great. They already downgraded his look from being menacing to now he's like a little purple man from the Power Rangers. So I feel nothing. They even made him look more like Josh Whedon. I'm so confused about Marvel's choices.
Well, I'm confused that, you know, you had this actors playing Cable also, and you have both of these movies are coming out in the same month now, because Deadpool comes out in May also. So, man, that's you gotta make sure he don't look nothing like the actor now, as far as Thanos is concerned. But I don't know. We'll have to see how that goes. And
I'm still angry at Cable. Cable should have been the guy who played the villain in Avatar.
Avatar.
Remember Avatar, the crappy movie, and the villain in it?
Oh yeah. I do remember that.
Cable.
Well, hey, you know, well, hopefully we don't need. Hopefully we won't see any more Avatar movies now. So.
No, we're getting more. Just like in the next 40 years or so. So the great thing is we'll probably all be dead by the time they release.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Oh yeah, Jane. Yeah, there are more coming, so we'll see. But yeah, what I was going to say, the two things I was going to say, yeah, Gary already touched upon it. I mean, the way the women were represented in the movie, that was fantastic. And that, from what I understand, I didn't read the comics, but that is exactly how they were portrayed in the comics. So I'm very glad they emphasized that, because, I mean, a lot of times you see that the guys are always the ones that are doing all the work, you know, there. So it was great to see it in this context, definitely. And they're very intelligent. You know, very attractive, very intelligent women. you know, strong women. So I was glad that they put that in there. And the other thing I did want to mention, something that Dana, you've already touched on, you know, I do still live here in Atlanta. Most of this movie was shot here in Atlanta. So for me to go to an actual screening, I saw pretty much everything that you said, Dana, people dressing up in the African attire. I actually sat next to a couple. All they had on was African attire, and they had a little son who had on a Black Panther costume. And just to see the excitement in the kids' faces, you know, just mutually bonding. When I go to the theater, normally I go to a theater, everyone is just off doing their own thing. When I went to see this movie, everybody wanted to have a conversation afterwards. So to see that and to see everybody coming to support the film, that was fantastic. You know, the theater I went to, normally it was in a shopping mall area, and in that same shopping area, there's a lot of stores that are no longer there. So normally when you go to see a movie at that theater, there's hardly no one there. When I went to go see that movie, everybody was there just to see the movie. And line was going outside of the actual mall. So it's just an awesome sight to see. Well, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you know, Black people don't like to have conversations with random strangers. So it's changing everything.
Oh, yeah. You're right about
Black people more open and everything.
You're 100% right about that. And for what I understand right now, I believe it's close to 200 million that it's made. We haven't even counted the rest of today or tomorrow when it's actually a holiday. So I think it's safe to say this movie is going to definitely break a lot of records if it hasn't done so already. And like I said, it's just I'm glad to see. Like I said, maybe in the future we will talk about spoilers. I don't want to spoil anything for anybody who hasn't seen the movie yet, because I do know it was sold out a lot of places this weekend. I was lucky to get a screening that I got the ticket the day before. So I got really, really lucky to get in, because everywhere else it was sold out, you know, Friday and Saturday. So it is what it is. But yeah, everybody, if you haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend you go see it. Again, just go check it out, and then you'll see there's a lot of stuff that I wish I could say about the movie, but again, I don't want to spoil nothing. We will have a show at some point in the future where we'll talk about the spoilers. But yeah, the writing, the cast, the messages, all fantastic. Definitely a must-see movie, and without a doubt, in my personal opinion, the best movie I've seen so far this year. So I'll be very curious to see what other movies are on that same level by the time we revisit the discussion at the end of the year for the movies we enjoyed the most. But go see it.
Yep. And also, it's a really big missed opportunity. I think that they should have had like this combo pack where you go and you get the tickets and you also get a comic book with it. Because when you watch the movie, so gorgeous, it's so beautiful, and the history is so rich that they should have included like a comic book, and there was a lot of kids there. So they should have included like a comic book to, you know, for them to go into deeper with the story and to learn more about the character.
I agree 100% with that idea. That was a missed opportunity, but I will give them credit for one thing. Whoever decided, let's make this movie and let's release it this month, Black History Month, that was a genius idea from that aspect, because it's just, I mean, perfect timing, perfect planning on their part. But yeah, the comic book idea, they should have did that. I agree with that 100%. That would have been fantastic, because then it keeps things going afterwards for those that, you know, a lot of people who saw this movie when I went to the theater and I saw it, a lot of people, all age groups, even the older people, the grandparents. Now, I will say one thing that I don't really understand, and I have to say this very briefly. People who watch Marvel movies, you know, you're supposed to stay until the very end of the movie to see the credits. I don't know why. Most of these people, you could tell this is their first time. They saw the movie and they saw the credits. They said, okay, I'm leaving. Didn't bother staying for the scene afterwards. And I think that middle scene and some stuff that was said in that particular scene is very, very important. But they didn't bother staying for that, and they didn't bother staying for the end. So I hope people learn, for those that do intend to see more Marvel movies, you're supposed to stay for all of the stuff. But still, excellent film. Definitely go out there and see it. And like I said, we'll talk about it at some point. We'll have a full-fledged discussion about everything the movie had to offer. But that's all I had to say on it. Gary, you about to say something else?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say like yeah, people need to learn not to like stand up and leave when the credits start, like during Marvel movies. And for DC movies, you need to learn to leave in the middle of the movie when you realize it's trash. So
You need to never attend the movie. Oh, and can we just say really something real quick with DC and the hilarity behind it? DC released an article saying that, oh, they're so happy that Black Panther did so well that they're going to uncancel the Cyborg movie. Because to them, if you have one black movie everyone's flocking to, you're going to have another black movie that everyone's going to flock to. Even though we know nothing about the character, they do a terrible job at storytelling, and it's really not even a superhero. He's just a guy who, you know, got into an accident and now he's working with Justice League. He's basically tech. So, but somehow in DC it translated to, you know, now we can sell tickets to black people because we have a black movie.
yeah, like I'm sure a lot of studios are gonna capitalize off this now or try to. So yeah, like movie studios, we're gonna see through it if you just try and come out with a bunch of woke black movies now. Like don't try to copy the trend. Like just be authentic.
I agree with that. And one thing I will say is for DC shouldn't be worried about that. They had their moment last year when they released Wonder Woman, and everybody was like, well, where is the Marvel's version of that, which we will get with Captain Marvel next year. So they were the first to that. So they should be happy with that, own that moment, and focus on making another good Wonder Woman movie. Because even though the first one was good, that villain and the way that they handled the end of that, I was not a fan of that at all. So that's just my opinion, though.
No. Here's why I'm always upset when people bring that up. No, Marvel did not piggyback on DC when it came to women-based movies. Marvel, if you guys remember, did that huge press conference where they released all of their phases.
Yeah,
remember Inhumans and all these other movies, and it had it had Mrs. Marvel or Captain Marvel or whatever the heck Marvel it was.
Yeah. That's true.
So they released that way before DC even thought about announcements. And then remember, they had their little press thing was like, yeah, here's all our movies. And nobody really cared about, and we still don't have it. And then remember, they canceled all of their movies. So no,
Yeah,
DC piggybacked from Marvel.
I will agree with
That's true.
that. Like Marvel already had all this stuff mapped out, and DC, you know, they came after. So yeah,
Yeah,
but obviously we're also
remember-
gonna get. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, remember the uproar when they was like, "Oh, we have Injustice." What was it? Injustice, and nobody heard of the other characters like Cyborg, and so we have to wait until like say 2025 to learn what a cyborg is. Who the heck is Papa Pope doing with this kid? Why is there the other Justice League characters that nobody cares about? Aquaman. Why are we getting all these separate movies right after we get them together? It's stupid. So yeah, no.
Yeah, and
No.
we're also getting a Black Widow movie, but I think the Black Widow one should have came before Miss Marvel, personally. But yeah, there's that too.
Well, yeah, no, I agree with that. No, I agree with that 100%, and I understand exactly what you're saying. What the both of you are saying. I'm just saying the other people on the outside, they're going to see, well, Marvel made that announcement, but what was the movie that got out first? The Wonder Woman movie. So that's why they're like, oh, that was a success. Now they're waiting for Marvel's,
Right.
Captain Marvel.
And who's the franchise that's more thought out?
Oh, say what?
Who's the franchise that's more thought out?
Oh, Marvel,
And-
always.
Audience. Exactly. So you got your movie out first. Good for you. But can you sustain that? Because I
No.
just watched Justice League. Good. Look, no, they can't. So hush.
They can't. And from what I understand, the only movie they got coming out this year is Aquaman in November now. There ain't no other movie coming out. Whereas with Marvel, we got 3 movies coming out. Black Panther's out now. Infinity War is coming out in May. And then you got Ant-Man and Wasp coming out in July. So, yeah, Marvel got all this stuff planned out.
Yep. And then guess what? Shirtless Jason Momoa, whatever his name is not going to sell a movie. It's not going to him doing all those little vignettes with him with no shirt on, coming out the water 1,000 times. That doesn't make me want to see the movie.
Oh, yeah. The women who are fans of him, they're going to see that movie regardless of the of any advertising. They go, oh, he's in it. Oh, I'm gonna go see it.
Game of Thrones and be the moon and the stars again.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Okay, so moral of the story, ladies and gentlemen, go see Black Panther. We'll talk about it again in the future. We don't want to spoil nothing because I mean it just came out, but maybe by next week we'll be able to talk more about some more stuff. But I believe that concludes our show for this week. Unless you guys had anything else you wanted to say.
Can I just say something really quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I went to the toy fair, which was so boring and horrible. And, you know, a whole bunch of red tape and just awful. But I do want to say one thing. There's a Funko line coming out that just literally made my day. I was like screaming of pure joy. They're doing a whole Coming to America series. So, yes. So we're getting Prince Hakeem, right? With him in his royal garb. Then we're getting Hakeem when he came to Queen. So remember when he was wearing like that tacky gold chain with like the fur, the little tacky garb. Yeah. And then we're getting the McDowell's Hakeem. So with him and his little broom, you know, fighting off Samuel L. Jackson and that little red and black attire. And then we're also getting his best friend, Simi. We're getting him as like the royal Simi, and then we're getting him as like Queen Simi. And then they're going to do like, there's a gold version of Hakeem, just pure gold that's available in Target only. And then later on, they're going to do the other ones with like the dad and the mom. And remember the prince, oh gosh, what was that girl's name? I can't remember the girl's name and the character, but the love interest.
Oh yeah, I forget her name also.
Yeah, I forget her name.
So I just have one question. Does this all but confirm we're getting a sequel?
You know that are speaking. They want to do well. What happened is Eddie Murphy is saying that he is writing the sequel and he wants the sequel to be out. So it's just up in the air to see, you know, if he can finish the script. He's not doing anything else, so I don't see what the problem is.
He's filthy rich. He doesn't need to do anything anymore.
Hey, he's not that rich. I mean, he has like 20 kids, so he's not that rich.
Yeah. Like, I really miss his acting. Like, I wish he would make more movies, but yeah, it just seems like he's just super rich and doesn't really want to, like, or he takes it at his own pace. But,
no, he's like, it's like 20 different women he's balancing. So if he concentrates less on dating and less on impregnating women, we can actually get a movie. So that would be good.
But yeah, like,
Oh,
good.
No, I was going to say he recently did a movie about him playing a chef, and it was really good, and it wasn't even comedic. It was a drama, and it was very good, but we need something more.
Yeah, I agree fully. Yeah, I did see all the Funko Pops that you were posting. So everyone should go follow Dana if you haven't seen it. Like, she posted a lot of great videos. And you know, I am interested in the Coming to America ones. But the ones I'm really excited for are the new Overwatch ones that you showed me, because like now they've got Mercy, they've got Sombra, they got Reinhardt, Junkrat.
And they're gonna roll out with all of the characters, but it's gonna just take, you know, a while. But they're available this summer and some in the spring, so that should be fun. So any Overwatch fans, they had that. They had Monster Hunter. So if you're a Monster Hunter fan and you're in there and you're doing that world, then they're going to have that as well. They also, I just wanted to say, not Funko, but McFarlane Toys. They have this beautiful, beautiful line. And, you know, they're very detailed and they're very well known for their details. It's a beautiful line for We Happy Few. So they're doing that as well. So go and check that out as well. I posted photos. Maybe I'll throw them up on the site as well.
Let everyone know your social media so they can go check that out.
Oh, my social media it's also on Twitter. It's Sage, S-A-G-E, Surge, all one word, S-U-R-G-E. It was my wrestling name as a kid. So Sage Surge. And it's also on Instagram as well.
Okay, I didn't know there was a wrestling name, so I'm gonna definitely mention that on WrestleCast now. Yeah, you're gonna have to tell us that backstory.
Wrestler. And Surge, it was the name from Jeff Hardy back when he was a kid, And Sage was like, "Oh, it just sounds Sage. I just like Sage." It was a character I wrote when I was a kid.
Okay, we gotta get that backstory on the next WrestleCast. Yeah. Okay. Well, one last thing I'm gonna say real quick before we wrap up. Yeah, we did have a showman in the chat that said the lady's name was Lisa from Coming to America.
Lisa.
Yeah. So all I'm gonna say about it is this: I did hear when they were writing the sequel, it was going to be about. Well, now he has I guess they have either a son or a daughter, and he wants to go back to Africa to find his wife. So that's an excellent idea. So I hope that that's actually happens. But again, we'll have to wait and see. A lot of people kept talking about the sequel to that is coming. So hopefully it gets done. It'll be very, very funny to see how they revisit that whole story.
And also give me another Clumps movie and I'm good.
Oh, well, maybe. We'll see. All right. So I think that wraps up our show for today. Want to thank you all for listening. And for those that were in the chat, thank you for conversating with us. It was a good time. Everybody that's listening on the download, thank you for your continued support. Dana, do you have any shout outs that you would like to give?
I just want to shout out everybody in the chat. Everyone who's participating, thank you very much. Thank you to that. And not thank you to the Toy Fair, because that was a mess. But thank you to everyone who's listening to us and continues to listen to us and to listen to me rant. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you for the continued support. Shout outs to, once again, I'd like to give another shout out to Mr. Tony Polanco. He celebrated a birthday this past Friday. So happy birthday again, Tony. Looking forward to the throwdown later tonight. So stay tuned for that. And Gary, the floor is yours now for shout outs.
Yep, so big shouts to all of our Patreon supporters: M. Collins, Sean Gority, Stephen Ferron, Mauricio Aguilar, Himdil, Fergus Mills, Nicholas Alvarez, and Miguel, who was in the chat today. So big shouts to you, Miguel. And yeah, shouts to everyone on the Koalition team. You know, Throwdown guys, Max, JJ. You know, they'll be back on future shows. And yeah, I'm hoping to record some extra content and stuff over the coming weeks for both the Patreon and the YouTube channel and the site and everything. So be on the lookout for stuff, and you know, feel free to comment and suggest things that you want us to talk about and all that stuff. Just, you know, make sure you conversate with us over, you know, wherever it is, whether it's Twitter or on Facebook or on Patreon. You know, just conversate with us and chop it up with us and let us know what you want to see, and you know, whatever you're playing and everything else. So big shouts to everyone who supports us and has continued to support us over, you know, the past 10 years. And that's pretty much it.
Absolutely. So thank you all once again for your continued support. We hope that you have a great week, and we will talk to you all next weekend.